I would like to know how to improve my children's writing skills.
I would like to know why we need to do homework.
My son going to French immersion and he's going to grade 6. I would like to know, is it better to continue for high school? It is better to continue for French, or it is better to change it to regular school, the English school?
I would like to know more about different programs which has more challenges for kids. As an example, gifted program, IB, AP, and others. Thank you.
Welcome to Canada Star TV. If you have followed our programs so far, you most probably by now know that we are dealing with the questions, concerns, and the few challenges that any newcomer, a potential newcomer, might be having in Canada. We are addressing specifically the educational issues and problems you might be having, and we are looking at how we can help you with resolving some of these issues. It's the first week of September. Canadian schools are open now. Most probably you have had your kids in here for about a few days at school. If you're planning to come to Canada, still the information we are trying to offer here will be useful. To make sure that we are addressing the right questions, our reporters go into the different community centers, places where they can meet with parents and ask their ideas, their questions to be filmed in here and to be put forward with you, following which I will be discussing as far as the time allows.
I would like to know how to improve my children's writing skills.
This mother is a typical parent. It is a very common question for most of the families to make sure that the kids are doing fine with their communication skills. What we have experienced at schools is kids different ages, they pick up the conversation, the oral communication skills pretty early. What remains to be tackled is writing, which is a very different and more sophisticated process. For a skillful writer, how they gain it, how to acquire it, everything starts with reading and listening to different lectures, speech, and news items, and media forms. When you sit down to write, you most probably have noticed that the idea, the content is one of the things you should be making sure that you're aware of and knowledgeable about. If I'm asked to write about something like why cell phones should be taken to school by children or why not, most probably I am aware of the risks, I'm aware of the challenges lying ahead of the school system, of the student and the parents. Then later on I should be making sure that I have the skills of putting my thoughts onto paper and get my thoughts organized and with the proper grammar, with the proper vocabulary. So everything starts with the ideas. Where we get the ideas is through reading. The few challenging issues, problems in writing is most of the bilingual kids at school might not be willing very much to read in English, where they can acquire, they can learn from writers, from authors, from the media and texts. If I'm writing about very simple question like, why should students wear uniform at school? I should have read a few items, a few essays that others have written for me to gain ideas. Sometimes ideas come from the people we talk to, from our own experience, from what we have seen in the workplace. And because students are not normally that very many times exposed to an environment where, for example, wearing uniform might be giving a privilege of, then it would be not very easily accessible for them to think of the outcome, to think of the benefits or disadvantages of wearing uniform. For us as parents to talk, to make sure that our children are gaining the skill in writing, we simply start with day-to-day conversation about the issues that are happening around us. It could be something happening in the family. It could be something they watch and see on TV. It could be something they learn from a cartoon. It could be something they hear from grandpa, from stories at school, and so on. Let's look at a very simple technique of stories. At every school setting, classroom, after the teacher has read a story, they usually discuss with the children what the main point of the story was. Imagine a grade 2 child has started picking up words here and there and listening to the teacher reading the text. After all those comprehension questions, the teacher turns to the students asking, well, what did you learn from this story? This triggers in the minds of the children for them to have an idea of next time when they are sitting to listen to a story, to look for the main point, to look for the point of view of the author. They learned this through simply listening to the story, or maybe looking at the pictures, and through all the question process that the teacher is observing and following in order to get to the point where the kid has formed already an idea of the point of the author who has written this story. Let's go to the very practical example of what could happen at home. Imagine you're sitting at home watching a news item. Something is happening somewhere around the world. It could be about a social issue. It could be about an economic issue. When you turn off the TV for a few minutes, you turn back to your child and ask, what is this about? What is going on? Then later on, it's as a parent, my job to make sure that there is a link, there is a relation between what we discussed during that 5 minutes and what is happening outside the home, at school, or in the larger community. Sometimes it could be a community event. It could be something happening, a play might be on a stage at school or at a community place. Right after that, we're sitting in the car and I turn to my kid and ask, okay, what was the main issue? What was the whole purpose of this play that we saw, all the dance that we saw, that we were observing along with the others? And especially if there are other children with us besides our own children, we can initiate, we can encourage a conversation between the children to have them involved, engaged in a conversation about that. Then later on, putting those thoughts and ideas on paper would be a little bit much easier. We brainstorm, we have the kid to write down all the different points of view and have them discuss, compare, and contrast and come up with an idea what fits, what suits the best to be incorporated, to be part of the content of that media form. Could be a very short clip on a YouTube we have picked for any reason. It could be a comic strips that they have enjoyed reading. Then, after they have put down their thoughts as a like mind map on paper, later on we are hoping to be able to show these media forms on paper and on whiteboard for you, our audiences. For the time being, let's talk about how we are putting the ideas on paper and then later on into organized paragraphs. We'd better start with debates and issues which could be talked as when we are trying to make our point through. We're trying to convince, persuade our audience in some way or another. What is that? Writing persuasive essay is one of the most popular forms of writing at school systems. The teachers start with very simple issues, ideas around school matters. Then at high school, more serious, more substantial ideas come into mind, and then they go from there. So after the children have put on paper what they think on a specific media form, they try to put them in right organization form. Let's imagine that your child has decided we don't have to take cell phones to class. We have him or her to sit down and write down the reasons why he or she thinks so. Then the rest would be easier. Imagine that your child has written 3 different reasons why cell phones are not useful at school. Then we have him to write down a full paragraph on the first reason only. The kid has decided cell phones cause distraction at school. We will have him sit and think of the examples of that he himself has seen in classroom happening, and he can imagine could be happening at school environment, in the classroom, or outside, out in the back in the schoolyard. Sometimes it is us as parents to give simply ideas and have the child to elaborate, to think about that, and to write in full sentences. Then after we are done with this stage, we will have the child to sit and revise and edit and make the right choice in terms of vocabulary. And if there is any errors in grammar, in verb form, and more appropriate adjectives that she can think of, we suggest we can make a list of all those words on a whiteboard in the child's bedroom for her to come and once in a while revisit and remember and try to incorporate, to put in the writing form. After all these steps have been accomplished, we might be sitting with our child to sit as a family and look at the writing, at the result, and have everybody in the family have their say what they think is the positive and the good things about that writing, what things could be changed, and what things could be sustained, stay there on the writing. We look at the format, we look at the punctuation, we look at whether it is organized the right way, the conclusion is in the right spot, the essay thesis is stated in the right way, and there is a good introduction, the title is there, punctuation wise, like commas are in the right spot. There are so many resources online and available for, commercially from bookshops and public libraries. If you don't want to buy books, buy one, borrow one, and have them on the desk in your child's bedroom, and once in a while come back and visit together, review them. It doesn't have to be a very elaborative long periods of work. You simply sit for about 5 minutes, review a few points, keep them in mind, and summarize, maybe put up on the child's whiteboard, and then again you might come back the following day to review whether you remember the things there. It's good for the kids, it's good for the parents as well. So you start with yourself, pick up a news item from any newspaper which is available, and try to summarize, see how much you understand and how much you're able to talk about it. Because at school, the next step after your child has prepared their writing would be a presentation. To get the kid prepared for the presentation in class, you yourself as parents should be able to visit different places, different sites, different media forms, and come up with an idea how you want to present it yourself. Let yourself present while your kid is watching you, and for him or her to give ideas how he likes it, how she likes it. What are the things that you can improve? By doing this, you're giving more confidence to your child. By giving this, you're having your child think about the skills that he or she should be improving herself in, and meanwhile, make sure that she's having a piece of paper to take note while you're doing this. Don't allow him or her to interrupt you, and have her wait until you're done and sit down and at peace of mind discuss and learn from your mistakes. And by doing this, you're getting your child ready for being welcoming criticism, welcoming comments from others. We hope to come back to this discussion because it's worth it. We'll talk about all the other dimensions, all the other aspects of writing. Till then, goodbye.